hello. How the heck have you guys been? It's been a fortnight, if I dare use that term, since we have been together for a number of reasons. Some of them funny, some of them not so funny, some of them downright scary. Let's roll the intro and we'll get into it. Let's do it. Alright guys, so hopefully first and foremost everybody's doing well. Second and foremost, I gotta apologize for the delay in getting anything out to you guys. It's been kind of an interesting, I guess you could call spring, February, March, April. The last video that I put out was, gosh, I don't even remember, it's been so darn long. But a couple of, I guess, reasons, maybe excuses. I got COVID. And that was not a good time. For those of you who know me personally, you know that I am into my 40s. So, not a spring chicken anymore by definition, but you know, I also don't have any real underlying health issues. So, a bunch of people in my work got it. Was never a big deal because I wasn't directly exposed to them, but they got over it and came back to work, and then other people got it. And to familiarize you with what I do, I work for a company who builds like tool trucks, so like Matco, Snap-on, Cornwell. We build those trucks from basically the frame up, and I'm like wiring and electronics specialist installer. So you're kind of on top of each other in those scenarios. Like we have as many as like 8 guys working on one truck at a time. So I was working on a Friday in a different department than I normally work in. I work in the custom department where we do like the big time like cool trucks. I was over in what we call the stocks, which are just like the cookie cutter, every truck's the same. And just helping those guys out, they were a little bit behind. And I knew that a couple of the guys over there had been out with COVID, but you know, had their whatever, their quarantine pass with no symptoms. So didn't have a ton of fear of catching anything at that point. The guys that had been out were back, they felt fine, they didn't have any underlying, you know, cough or anything, so not a big deal. Sorry, fighting off a sneeze here. So anyhow, I was working in that department, and Friday felt fine, Saturday felt fine, Sunday felt fine, Monday felt okay. Went to, well, like I felt a little more tired than normal. Went to work, and just throughout the course of the day, like started feeling worse and worse and worse. Once again, didn't have a cough, wasn't running a fever, just felt really worn out. Like I work 6 to 2:30, 6 a.m. to 2:30, and by like 11:30 or 12, like right after lunch, I'm like, man, I might want to call it and just head home. But I stuck it out, worked the whole day, but just didn't feel like myself. Got home that night and like knew that I was sick. Didn't think I had COVID. I want to kind of be very clear. I never, and even the doctor, when I ended up going into urgent care, the doctor didn't think I had COVID either. So I called in sick on Tuesday, told my boss, you know, I woke up with like 101.5 fever. So I'm like, okay, well, obviously something's going on. Thought I had the flu. I had the flu last year, and that was essentially what I anticipated I had. Slept probably 13 hours that day, and never started feeling better. Called in sick Wednesday, told my boss, hey, I'm sorry. If I don't feel better by tomorrow, that would have been a Thursday, I'll go to urgent care. And he's like, no worries, just keep me posted, blah, blah, blah. The company I work for is pretty specific about sick time, especially being that I'm new there. I was there like just a month and a week at that point. So, you know, I didn't want to be that guy that's like calling in sick. But every day I woke up with a fever. So like with that Wednesday, I woke up with like 102 fever, slept 15 hours that day. Thursday I got up and I felt okay. I still had a fever, but I didn't feel overly sick. I had like a little bit of a resurgence in a way. So I'm like, the hell with it. The 2 previous days I probably couldn't have even driven myself to urgent care. So I called urgent care. They're like, yeah, come on over. So I went in. They did a flu test, which, like I said, that was what I thought I had. They also did a COVID swab at the same time. Came back negative for flu, but they listened to my lungs and they did like a blood oxygen saturation test, and I was like 97%, which is almost perfect, obviously. And the nurse or the doctor or the practitioner or whatever was like, I don't think you have COVID. You don't have any of the symptoms other than the fever and the, you know, like exhaustion. But at this point, like if you guys have been to the doctor in the last 2 years, you have any symptoms, you have nausea or like upset stomach, they say it's a COVID related thing. So, you know, they were like, let's just be on the safe side. We'll submit the COVID test. It should take, you know, 48 hours to get. Call my boss, let him know I took the test. And at that point, like once you suspect you have COVID, you're kind of put like on this, at least in my scenario, you're kind of put on this almost like automatic quarantine thing. So he's like, okay, well, you know, 72 hours minimum, regardless of what the test says, stay home. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I got the test back on Saturday and it was indeed positive for COVID. So at that point, you're like, okay, well, I guess I'm in for the long haul. It's going to be like 2 weeks of sitting at home. The only upside to like when I got COVID, I'm a huge golfer, like huge golf fan. It was Masters week. So like that Saturday was the Saturday before Masters week. So that Monday is when Masters kicked off. So literally got to sit at home all week on the couch, you know, in pajamas, sweatpants, and just enjoy the Masters as much as I could. My symptoms never got what I would consider like hospitalization or life-threatening enough for me to worry about like going back to the doctor. My wife, on the other hand, was a little more concerned. I never had huge breathing issues. I would get a little winded like going up our stairs. The other thing that was very strange was I couldn't seem to regulate my breathing while I was sleeping. So like I would take a nap on the couch and I would wake myself up not breathing and then take like a huge gasp of air. It was really strange. It was like almost like my brain forgot how to subconsciously make myself breathe. And that was kind of scary because I would wake up feeling like I was out of breath and couldn't catch my breath. Almost like asthmatic, I would say. But yeah, took 13 days off, had a fever for 11 days straight. To take it even further, that Sunday before, so like that, remember I told you I was working with the guys that had it on Friday. I went for a ride on that Sunday, like a 5-hour ride, and have some adventure stories to tell you about that ride that I didn't record. But yeah, 13 days, 11 of it, pretty nasty fever, and back to my old self. Thought I was going to have some like long-term effects, you know, like when I say long-term, like I didn't think I was going to be scarred for life or anything, but I thought like the breathing issues and stuff would last longer than they did. Oh, hey, little pony. But I feel pretty good at this point. Played golf a couple of times, have been back to work at full capacity. Got really lucky. My job paid me for the entire time I was off, which was rad. Didn't think they were going to do that. Didn't think they needed, or didn't think they were required to do it, but I guess like Colorado has some sort of a requirement. I think your company pays you and then the state reimburses the company, something to that effect. At any rate, back to it. So there was one of my delays. The other delay is we've had 2 snowstorms. So one of them was fairly substantial. That's going to keep a guy from riding. So going back to what I was talking about, that ride, we took a big long ride the Sunday before I got sick. So I got sick that Monday, and I actually wrecked the bike. Post some pictures up here so you can see. It was, you know, as far as wrecks go, it was more or less just like a low speed, low side. I went out to Kyoto, which is about 35 miles north of where we're at now, and had planned on just putting around. This was like right after we got one of the snowstorms we had had. Not right after, but like a few days after, and everything had melted. There wasn't snow on the ground. But I rode mostly on road all that day, and then I went up to Kyoto, which for you guys who have not seen any of the videos is like an abandoned ghost town way out in Pawnee grasslands. I've mentioned it in previous videos. But I got into like a 2-rut, you know, like grass in the middle, 2 tire tracks on either side. I got into one of those, and it was fine. It was like sandy, and then all of a sudden it was mud, and I mean like 6-inch deep mud, and the front tire washed at probably 18 to 20 miles an hour, and I just kind of stepped off the bike and rolled. But it was such a crummy scenario, the way the bike fell and how it fell. It was basically like no ability to get any footing, and I had never dry tested lifting this motorcycle, and I think they say these are like 560 or 570 dry. Well, I've got saddlebags that are full, I've got a tail bag that's full, heat crash bars which are probably worth 15 pounds. So this bike weighs a ton. It's probably 600 pounds. And thinking back about that day and like quote unquote my pre-COVID day, I got really winded lifting this bike up, and I was like, holy cow, am I in that bad of shape? I don't think I am in that bad of shape. I think I had like some pre-COVID stuff going on in my lungs, because it took every ounce of me to be able to lift this motorcycle up and not pass out. I felt like by the time I got the bike up, I was gonna pass out because I was breathing like so heavily. But at any rate, the heat crash bars did their job. There's no scratches on the bike itself. There's definitely some scratches on the bars, but they're very light. But it took me probably 4 different tries and a few different types of maneuvers to try to get the bike up. Like the way the bike had fell, it just kind of fell over like this. Well, it put it at a weird disadvantage because the tire actually ended up, the tires were kind of on the center the way it slid. So the bike was actually sitting canted with the gas tank down. So what I'm trying to say is I was having to lift the bike higher than you would if the bike was just on flat ground and like the handlebars holding it up. So then I had the whole mud thing to deal with, which I've still got mud on my climb gear from trying to pick the bike up in the mud. It was just a perfect storm. Like, talk about trial by fire of having to lift your motorcycle for the first time in an off-road scenario. I mean, it was all of the bad things. So I did finally get it up, walked it, you know, kind of started it, and then like walked next to it and used the motor and the back tire as, you know, the driving force, because this bike is heavy enough, it's hard to push around, especially in mud. So got that thing back up and got back on the road, but it was a mess. It took me about 25-30 minutes to get it clean. It had mud everywhere. So that's one of the silly things that happened. And then I bought a drone because I think drone footage of motorcycles are awesome, especially when you're like in a cool off-road scenario. So I wanted to get a drone. I mean, I wasn't willing to spend $1,000 on it. I wasn't even willing to spend $500. So I started doing some research on different drones, and there's a company, silly name, Holy Stone, which had really good ratings, and they had one of the least expensive drones with follow me technology. So basically, like, it uses your phone as a beacon and it follows you. I haven't tried it because first flight with that, everything was going fantastic, and as the drone was maybe 200 yards out from me, wind picked up, and with like all drones, you can flip it from, like, I don't know if it would be called like headless mode or what. So, you know, I'm flying the drone and I've gotten used to the controls. I'd actually done a couple of like 2-minute flights or whatever just to get a feel for like how the controls work. Had it going pretty good, was flying it around, was actually like chasing some prairie dogs around. But I flipped it into fast speed mode and headless mode. So those two things combined made for a pretty funny scenario. So I got the drone out from me fine, but then when I wanted the drone to come back to me, the headless mode, like, essentially in my mind flipped things around. So like, back was not back, forward was back, and you know, so on and so forth. So I got it all screwed up, and then this happened. So yeah, literally the first flight, the first more than 2-minute flight, I crashed the SOB right into a creek. And I couldn't find it for like 20 minutes, so I'm walking around this area that I had flown the drone in, not knowing exactly where. I knew I had a pretty good hunch that it fell in the creek because even when drones crash, when you have them tethered to your phone, like I was watching the whole thing. Like I saw it hit a tree, and I'm like, oh, just get hung up in the tree, that'll be fine. And then it kind of like, plinkoed, bing, 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 through the tree, and then lost all feed. Like feed gone, GPS gone, battery level gone. Like it was as if somebody just pulled the battery out of the drone. So that was my hope. I'm like, oh, I hope the thing hit the ground hard enough that like the battery just popped out. But the way most of the newer style drones work, the battery, the way it goes like into the body of the drone, there's really, I mean, unless you crash the thing on concrete from a really high altitude, there's really no way that the battery could come out. They're like kind of hard to get out, just taking them out yourself. Well guys, just a quick little update today. I just wanted to let you know what's been kind of going on. I still have some rides planned. There's a small part of me, believe it or not, who's actually thinking about selling the bike because I just haven't been riding it. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how the summer feels. I do that with bikes. I'll keep them for 6 months to a year, and then I'll get rid of them, and then I'll regret it, and then it's like, I don't know. But at the age I'm at, like I'm now wanting to put what is the payment amount of this into other things each month, especially having a house built. It's not a ton of money a month, but it's a little bit of extra money that you can put towards projects and things like that. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with old Caroline. I really don't know. I'm on the fence. There's a number I have in my mind that I would need to get for the bike in order to make it worth it for me. I don't know if I could get it or not. It wouldn't be a scenario where I would be willing to take a loss on it. So, especially an Africa Twin. I mean, I've got 6,400 miles on it, and it's got so much money in upgrades. But I don't know. It's like every time a new model comes out, it drives the prices down a little bit. So we'll have to see. But guys, as always, even though it was just a short, non-eventful ride, oh hey birds, thanks for riding along. Make sure if you like, you throw me that like, drop me a comment below, questions, etc. Heck, you want to buy the bike, shoot me an offer. Other than that, Colorado on 2 wheels out. I will see you guys next time.